on your mobile and on your smart speaker. You're listening to the voice of a new generation. This is KIC Radio.
Hello and welcome back to episode 22 now of the Southbank podcast. It's going to be a fun one because today I'm once again joined by Cameron Gorman, and this seems like we're dreaming now because we're once again talking about a Wolverhampton Wanderers win. But before we get on to that, Cam, how you been holding up, mate?
Wow, absolutely brilliant after that result, Jacob. I just can't believe that Wolves are finally winning games. You would have thought this podcast would have ended up with tears by the end of the season, the way it started off, but here we are celebrating yet another Wolves win.
Yeah, 4 wins on the win now. 4 wins in a row now for Wolverhampton Wanderers. Our longest winning streak in the top flight since January 1972.
Wow.
A long time there. And finally, off that 17th place mark, where it feels like we've been for an extended amount of time, finally leapfrogging West Ham and only 2 points behind the following pack in front. So God knows where Wolves could end up this season. It could end up looking like a solid mid-table season, despite how much of a close call it almost was at times. But we're here to talk about Sunday's game, not Saturday's game, Sunday's game, where it was Wolverhampton Wanderers 4, Tottenham Hotspur 2. So, Cam, first thoughts out the gate, Wolves 4, Tottenham 2.
Wow, wasn't much time to do any thinking, was there, before we scored? Excellent performance all round from Wolves, I thought. While I think Tottenham definitely played a helping hand with their mistakes involved in every goal on Sunday, Wolves just have that intensity we're growing used to now under Vitor Pereira, with relentless pressing and complete unity seemingly between the fans, coaching staff and the team, which is something we've missed for so long. But that first goal, just brilliant. Bellegarde earning the free kick on the left-hand side, and I'll let you get into it because it all happened very, very quickly. Our fastest ever Premier League goal, if you didn't know.
Yeah, it did. I think a lot of fans still making their way to their seats when the ball was played over the top to Jordan Bellegarde. He does incredibly well because he has no one up supporting him, really. Managing to take on the defender and win the foul. And then the free kick comes in. Vicario doesn't do well with it at all. His first mistake in the game, and his first mistake of many, really, punching the ball out to Ryan Neuer edge of the box, who it's a fantastic finish that we know that man is capable of, and yeah, what a start. Couldn't ask for much more. It almost felt too easy of a start for Wolves. It's what was felt in the celebrations from Ryan Neuer, almost like a nonchalant, he wanted a bit more of a challenge. But yeah, 1-0 up, the quickest Premier League goal for Wolverhampton Wanderers. And that set the tone for the rest of the game, I think. You mentioned our pressing. Marshall Manetzi once again pressing his socks off. Jorgen Strand Larsen, even though to his admission it wasn't one of his better games, still pressing. And of course, Jordan Bellegarde before he went off, starting the game with that high press, but really caught out Spurs a few times. Vicario especially looking very hesitant on the ball. We all thought we'd doubled our lead after just 5 minutes when Jorgen Strand Larsen missed from very close range. Ultimately, it was given as a foul or offside? Anyway, so the goal would not have stood. But yeah, wow, what a start for Wolves, and what a difference we're seeing at the moment with his high press as opposed to a Gary O'Neill system where it was very much, was there really a system to it? It was just let the other team have the ball and we'll see what we can do with it when we get to Mateus Cunha. Now it's very much like every player has their role in the team. Would you not agree, Cameron?
Yeah, I would 100% agree. Every player seems to have full belief in the coach and in his system. But just looking back at the goal, definitely I agree. Subdued celebrations from the Algerian, nonchalant, as you say. But yeah, I and many fans in the ground probably thought perhaps it could be too early to score. You see that quite often, especially in the Premier League as a whole. And I just thought it was excellent control from Aït-Nouri. Even though his shot cannons into the ground before it hits the net, to get enough control to even guide that goalwards is just magnificent. After Vicario, who probably should have caught it, punched it out. But like you said, many mistakes from Vicario on Sunday. like you said, he had a terrible attempt at a pass or a clearance. Who knows what it was, but it was awful not finding Davies at all. As Manetzi rushes forward, Bellegarde's able to get to it and puts it into Strand Larsen, who has to improvise after he falls over on his back after some good defending from Romero. But yeah, it actually wasn't given offside. You'll be surprised to hear it was actually a goal kick. Strand Larsen was actually onside, which surprised me, as many of us fans in the ground did think it was in at the time. We were all jumping up in celebration on the one hand of the pitch, but couldn't see that it had gone out for a goal kick. However, yeah, like you say, the whole system Vitor Pereira's put in place. He mentioned in his press conference that he knows Ange very well. He's met the manager multiple times throughout his career before they've both met in the Premier League, and he knows how Ange likes to come into a low block after a pass back and almost like hold the pressure so they can burst forward. But as you see and have seen time and time again with Spurs this season, that's just not working. And honestly, Ange's job is hanging by a thread, it seems. Levy, from where we were sitting, we could see at full time, he did not look happy at all. He looked like he was eyeing up the axe for the Australian. But yeah, Wolves doing very well. And then after both of these blunders from Vicario, Wolves still only 1-0 ahead, but Spurs had an opportunity. Bissouma on the edge of the area, forces Sarr into a great save, palmed away, and Semedo clears. However, except this, Jacob, Spurs didn't really have many opportunities at all in that first half. This was probably their only half chance.
Yeah, it was. And I think that speaks levels to just how poor Spurs were. Because I think there's a bit of a drop off after about the 10th minute by Wolves. I thought probably our worst spell in the game from about the 10th minute until the second goal, where we allowed Spurs to play in our half a bit too much. But like you say, hardly worrying us aside from a decent attempt by Bissouma, matched by an equally as good save by Jose Sarr. But yeah, a lot of possession by Spurs, but not doing anything with it. And you can really tell why they are struggling this year. I've never known a big six as such side come to Molineux look so poor. Even their 2 goals, I think, come from our mistakes. I don't think they earned their goals. I think they were very poor for us, which we'll get onto ourselves in the second half. But yeah, you mentioned Ange Postecoglou. Job definitely hanging by a thread. I think he could get Tottenham to the Europa League final. If he doesn't win it, he's gone. He simply has to win that Europa League to have any chance of keeping his job. He might even win that Europa League and not keep his job. They've been that poor this season. But I do feel like that is where it lies for them. That's where it lies for Ange in determination of his job or whatever. But they just look like a team devoid of any confidence. And the players that were on that pitch are not as poor as what they showed on Sunday, which comes to our second goal. A blocked cross, but still managed to find Manetzi. First of all, very poor defending to allow that to happen. And then Vicario, what is he doing? Smashing it off his own defender, Jed Spence, and it goes in for 2-0. Spence is none of the wiser. Neither is the bloke on the announcement system for Wolverhampton Wanderers, it seems, because he thought it was Jorgen Strand Larsen's goal, despite him being nowhere near the ball that entered the back of the net. But even he came up and gave a bit of a gesture, but it was not his goal. It was clearly an own goal by Jed Spence. But this really killed Tottenham here. Any momentum that they might have had, even though any momentum would have been minimal, having just possession. But yeah, another poor mistake. The Spurs away end very, very restless at this point. I remember a few minutes later sarcastically jeering when Vicario caught the ball. But there is a point in this half that I do want to bring up. Ulrich Bellegarde going down injured. We saw not Mateus Cunha be brought to. Pablo Sarabia came on in his position. And again, I thought a very good account of himself, Pablo Sarabia. Once again, another player who's really found his system under Vitor Pereira, really found his flow. But this shows an immense level of trust in Pablo for me, from Vitor Pereira that Gary O'Neill didn't seem to have in the Spanish winger stroke midfielder now. He seems to be playing more inside. Cam, does this allude to anything for you, or do you still assume Pablo will be off in the summer?
No, I still feel like he'll be off in the summer, Jacob. Even if he is just playing for his own sake to earn himself a move elsewhere. I think it hasn't been the best stint of his career at Wolves. I think he's almost earning the right to leave on a free contract with the way he's playing. He's giving a good account of himself, like you say. But I felt that this was more of a message to Cunha from Vitor Pereira. To bring him on in this situation was kind of to say all is forgiven. We did obviously see the introduction of Cunha later in the second half, and I thought when he was introduced was the right time. I thought it was when we expected him to be introduced after all the shenanigans midweek, which we'll touch on to later. However, Semedo, like you said, he seems to be playing in more of a inside forward / winger / playmaker type role these days for us. And I think it suits him down to the ground, allowing him to get on the ball more and make use of his excellent passing and technical abilities. We saw him play a few balls during the game, but did look to threaten the back line of Spurs when played in behind and allow players to run onto them. However, I don't really have much more to add there.
No, it's there was another chance just before the half-time interval. Totti Gomez win the ball very high up, a charge forward, and I don't know if you've seen the screenshot on Twitter, but my God, this Spurs back line, wow! We've got Romero, who's on his own, and his three defenders are about 10 yards in front of him, allowing Larson a lot of space on the other side. Unfortunately, Totti's ball isn't quite good enough to him, but that's just a point I wanted to reiterate about how poor Spurs were and how there's no structure to his team. If I don't see how Ange can stay in a job with a team with no structure like this, you're not going to win games in the Premier League. That's their 17th loss this season. It's no surprise when that's the structure in the back line. But we go to the second half, and it was all Wolves for the first 15, 20 minutes. It really looked like Larson was having a chance that was saved by Vicario. It was looking like if anyone was going to score, it was going to be Wolves. Andre Gomez are just easily having the game that they wanted to have, which was then opposed by the substitutions by Ange, with Bentancur and Bergvall coming on, trying to short that midfield a bit. But it wasn't Wolves that would score next. It'd be Tottenham. Out of nowhere, a ball across the box isn't dealt with. I think, personally, for me, Santi Bueno far too high, as he was at many times in that second half. But the majority of the blame does have to go on Nelson Semedo, who I'm not quite sure what he's trying to do, whether he's trying to flick it out of his back heel or something in his own box. It's rather stupid. It falls to tell. Takes deflection off Semedo, and it's in for 2-1. And Spurs have a way back into a game that they really didn't deserve, in my opinion, Cameron. What do you make of this goal that Wolves conceded?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Completely undeserved by Spurs. It was their only attempt at goal up to that point, and except obviously the Basuma half chance in the first half. However, I just completely agree. Completely undeserved. I wouldn't so much put the blame on Santiago Bueno. I understand why he was kind of pushing higher up, as he was playing more in that kind of sweep position. Semedo, for me, takes all the blame. A defender with his experience, especially, I do not expect to misread the trajectory of the ball as he did. As you see in the replay, as I'm sure we've all watched these highlights a dozen times by now, he just narrowly misses the ball as it comes in from that Brennan Johnson cross on the far right. He's very unlucky to not just backheel it away and then be able to clear it himself, as we see him do many times throughout every game. However, Tell is lurking, and a great finish by him, may I add, outside of his left boot into the near post, and really showing why he's worth the money he is. He's got the goals assist ratio he does per minute. However, yeah, I just don't think Spurs deserve this at all. It gave them a route back into the game that was completely unwarranted, given the way Wolves have been playing. But as we'll soon see, it didn't count for much, did it?
No, it was a great response from Wolves. Ryan Ignori showing tremendous bits of confidence to still press this high after just conceding. Takes the ball off
Yeah,
Romero's feet, who I've heard was having a bit of a ding dong with João Gomez and Andre throughout this game. Soon shown levels by João Gomez's best friend, it seems, Ryan Ignori, as he takes the ball off his feet. And it looks simple, but there's a lot for Ignori to do in this position. He perfect ball across to Larson, who how many times have we seen a ball like this be fizzed across and it's got too much on it or not enough on it? But it's
yeah,
perfect and it finds Larson and the Southbank goes into ruptures as Larson just taps it home. The easiest finish he's going to get all season. We said that for the Ipswich goal, but this might be easier. Was it 12 goals now for Jorgen Strand Larson this season? Absolutely loving his football
wow.
here, it seems, at the minute. But yeah, gives us our 2-goal lead back, which, in my opinion, we didn't deserve to lose. And puts us back in the driving seat. The Southbank erupts into Larson chance. Norwegian flags are flying everywhere. And Cameron, atmosphere, character, everything about this goal was just something to behold, wasn't it?
Yeah, I completely agree. The atmosphere, the limbs we saw after this goal, I think it really showed the mentality of this squad at the moment to instantly go after that Spurs response, to go and provide our own response and get immediately back our 2-goal lead, which was completely deserved, I feel. I think Totti was quite lucky that Aït-Nouri was able to outmuscle Romero to reach that ball on the left-hand side. However, like you said, a few spats going on between the Brazilians and the Argentinian throughout this game, as we'll see later with Matheus Cunha as well. However, yeah, Romero, I think it's just extremely poor from the Argentine to be giving away the ball in this position. You just can't do that as a central defender facing your own goal. I thought it was quite lazy, but as you say, terrific work from Aït-Nouri there to even get in the position to put the ball across the box. And like you said, Strand Larson, who in his own words said he was having an off day on the Sunday, still finding the net, which just shows how great the form is of the Norwegian as of late. It was his 5th goal in 4 games. Only 2 Wolves players have scored in 4 consecutive Premier League games for the club, being Henry Kamara and Jurgen Strand Larsen himself now. I just thought it was a phenomenal goal and completely deserved. However, one man I want to highlight for this goal isn't Romero. It's actually Jed Spence. He was marking Strand Larsen as the ball's played forward by Totti to Aït-Nouri. And he allows Strand Larsen to open up 10 yards of space between him and Jed Spence, who doesn't track Strand Larsen back towards goal. And had Spurs not been so lazy with their marking, as you said before, in this whole Spurs system, they might not have found themselves in this position in the first place.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Very poor from Spurs once again, but take nothing away from Wolves' will and determination in the attack. Very refreshing to see. But unfortunately, 3 things are certain in life: death, taxes, and Wolves conceding from a corner. And that's exactly what happened next. The ball whipped in, finds Romero, whose header is good, actually. Life was off the crossbar, but unfortunately, Richarlison is there to sweep up and put it in the back of the net. And Spurs are once again only 1 goal behind, undeservingly. And it seems like we have to do all our work again. Rather frustrating. Cam, how many times have we spoke about Wolves conceding from a corner? To maybe add a bit of the curse of the first half of the season back into this game.
Yeah, at one point this was just a podcast about us complaining about Wolves conceding corners, wasn't it?
Yeah.
However, yeah, I think this one was a bit harder to deal with. Obviously, the delivery from Bergval coming in and Davies putting it back across box. Like you said, excellent header from Romero. I thought he's unlucky not to score himself with that header crashing against the bar. And the easiest goal for Richarlison will get in his career, realistically, just being able to tap it home while Jose Sarr is on the floor. But yeah, I just I'm sick of talking about us defending corners. But as of late, it's not really been that big of a problem. I'm kind of not expecting us to concede every corner anymore. But as we'll soon see, he wasn't the Brazilian striker that had the final say in this game, as Mr. Controversy, Mr. Controversy, made his way back onto the pitch. And enter Cunha, who, upon entry, may I add, when he's substituted on, Strand Larson taps him on the back, signals to the fans, pointing down at the Molineux turf to say he belongs here. And he certainly proved it, didn't he, Jacob?
Yeah, I need to eat a bit of humble pie here personally. I wasn't one of the ridiculous Wolves fans that booed Mateus. I think if you were, that's an element of something you need to look at yourself for. But I was very much of the opinion we shouldn't have played him on Sunday. And I was quite happy to see him not play much for the rest of the season, as I believed he's going to be off in the summer. We might as well give game time to other people. But we've been called for Mateus to focus on his football and give his all to this football club. And that's exactly what he did on Sunday. So fair play to you, Mateus Cunha. You've shown up with the player that we know you can be and the player that we know you are. So Mateus comes onto the pitch to a great reception, actually. And, I clapped, I sung his name. I was willing to give him another chance, and thankfully he did that. He took it by the grasp, taking the ball off Bergval, skipping past Ben Davis, and just slotting the ball so casually. He makes football look easy sometimes, this guy. And then his celebration to the Southbank, very much signalling that he loves this football club. Almost a bit of an apology, if we can call it that, to the Southbank. But yeah, brilliant goal. Mateus once again showing what he can do. And what was mental to me was the fact that we were playing Tottenham Hotspur, and it just felt like at any point we could switch up to another level and punish them, as we did twice when they scored. It just seemed like, that's cute. We'll go and score another, which is ridiculous to say at the moment, as we were playing against a team like Tottenham Hotspur. But that just proves as to where we are in comparison to them at the moment, doesn't it?
Yeah, I find the way you put that quite funny. However, I definitely agree with it. We did look like we were playing in first gear that whole match, and we were coasting really. And whenever we wanted to, it seemed we could just click up a notch and then go and get that next goal to restore our 2-goal lead. Cunha, he has been controversial this week for his post across social media, but him and social media, we know, don't mix. But him on the pitch in a Wolves shirt, that definitely does. Silencing his critics such as Jacob Jones and Dave Azzopardi. He really shut up a lot of Wolves fans who've been calling for his head. I hadn't been necessarily of the opinion he shouldn't play again all season, but I was also happy to see him on the bench. I think it was the right choice. Jacob, before the match, never wanted to see him play all season. He's being very complimentary right now. However, that's not quite what he was saying before the match. He had some fine choices of language to describe the Brazilian. However, he was the first one to sing his song when he saw him warming up. So I think that speaks volumes as to how much love we all have for the Brazilian as a fan base, despite his off-the-pitch thoughts. I thought it was the excellent way to silence his critics, really. Let him do his talking on the pitch. And yeah, he was apologising, immediately bowing down to the Wolves fans with his hands up in prayer, and then bumping the badge and drawing a love heart in the air. A nice little ode to the Southbank faithful. Almost to say, yeah, he loves us and this is where he belongs, but we'll soon see if it's where he belongs in the summer. However, Dave Azzopardi must be livid along with the rest of Talking Wolves about this result.
I think that we all love Mateus for what he's done here. Hence why it was so disappointing for us to see this on social media this week. I think that's where most of it comes from. He's a player who will never not have love for what he's done for this football club. But it's like I said to you at full time, if that man didn't have an Instagram account, he'd probably have a stand named after him by now. But yeah, that was all for Wolverhampton Wanderers versus Tottenham. Another fantastic performance by Wolves. Another fantastic result for Wolves. And we just look like we can play anyone at this point. It's giving almost a Nuno era vibes, if I may say myself, where we're not worried to go at any team at this point. But just before we go on to points and points, any standouts for you? Well, obviously there will be standouts, but who were the standouts for you coming out of this game, Cam?
For me, the standouts were clearly. Ait Nouri. What a performance from the Algerian. 1 goal, 1 assist, the most key passes with 3. 22 out of 26 duels won in this game. No fouls committed. And even getting recognition from elsewhere. He was in the BBC Team of the Week by Troy Deeney and named as his Player of the Week as well. He's also the first ever defender to provide 10 Premier League assists for Wolves in the competition, while no Premier League defender has been involved in more goals this season with 4 goals and 6 assists. His performances like this, and as much as I don't want to mention it, like the Coventry game last year, Ait Nouri really does put the team on his back in some games, and I think he goes underrated. While he is one of the players who will have dubious transfer interest regarding him in the summer, I think the Algerian is just such a crucial player in the way we play, despite other players in his position who could step up with the likes of Rodrigo Gomez and Hugo Bueno, who we'll talk about later if Ryan Ait Nouri were to depart. But he was my standout for Sunday's performance. I also want to say João Gomez, before he went off, was absolutely phenomenal. Really symbolising his nickname of the Pitbull, fighting every loose ball, really fighting for the badge. And like you said, I was enjoying his and Andre and Cunha's spats with Romero throughout the game. Obviously carrying on from the recent friendlies Brazil have played against with Argentina, with Cunha scoring in practically the same fashion against Romero as he did last time in that game. I also thought Agbadou was just phenomenal as always, and I thought Totti was quite underrated too on Sunday.
Yeah, for me, Ait Nouri, like you say, definitely a standout. Good to see as well, because I do believe that he's one of the players whose performances maybe have left a bit to be desired lately. Because we know how much quality he does possess, as he shows in games like this. But really turned up. And Agbadou, wow, what a sign he has been. Absolutely transforming our defence. Such an absolute monster at the back. He made someone a physical striker like Dominic Solanke and just ate him for lunch. Just having nothing that game. Made one mistake where he played it across his own box to Richarlison and still recovered it before Richarlison could get a shot away. Just, that man is absolutely immense, if you want to add something.
Yeah, just one thing to add about Agbadou. Vitor Pereira did say in his post-match press conference that he was actually really, really sick the day before, and they weren't sure he was even going to make the game. But he said to Vitor that he wants to battle through it and play. And I just think that shows the mentality of the Ivorian. He's an absolute unit of a player. He also had a finger injury as well that he just does not care about when it comes to playing for Wolverhampton Wanderers. Just what a man. And I think he's got real captain potential for next season.
Yeah, that's certainly the character you want playing for your football club. And it seems like we've got rid of most of the bad eggs at the minute. We saw Mario Lemina depart in January, being replaced by Marshall Manetzi, who just seems like the absolute polar opposite, a man who's willing to die for the badge, as stereotypical as it may sound. Plays every minute of every game and just does not stop running. The 89th minute, and he's still pressing the goalkeeper. someone don't test this man because he cannot be human, or there's something going on. His energy levels are ridiculous. As much as he may leave it to be designed with his feet, wow, that man can absolutely run, and it's what you love to see. You need players like that. He really must be a handful to play against. But we saw full time, great picture where every single member of the squad, from Mateus Cunha down to Mateus Mane, who didn't play, are all going up to the South Bank and the North Bank arm in arm to a great ovation. And wow, how long has it been since we've seen something like that? That togetherness at Wolverhampton Wanderers, this feel-good factor at Wolverhampton Wanderers, and how refreshing is it to see?
It's what we've wanted for so long. We have not had this since the Nuno era. This feeling that we can go into any game and get a result. It's just phenomenal. Even in Vittel's post-match press conference saying he's already looking to the next game against United and disregarding this, and he wants to go to Old Trafford and fight for the 3 points. And at the moment, we really feel like we can go and do that as Wolves fans. We really feel like that's a possibility, because the way we are playing and this togetherness in the squad is just something we did not think was possible at one stage of this season. While many of us wouldn't have said we will go down, despite our feelings at one point when it looked likely, to flip it on its head and now be looking forward to next season, be looking forward to how high up the table we could end up finishing this year, is an absolute phenomenal job from Vitor Pereira. And just what a bloke. Walking into his post-match press conference saying big smile, and in his own words saying he's beaming ear to ear, just pure positive energy everywhere he goes. Going to the pub in Spoons in Wolverhampton after the game with every fans. And apparently, according to a lot of people on Twitter and other social medias, he's been spotted around quite a lot of Wolverhampton pubs on his days off on an evening, talking to fans, buying them drinks and getting drinks bought for him, no doubt. But what a man. And I think he's just very down to earth. In his own words, he lives a simple life here. He's either at home or at the pubs with the supporters, and in his own words, he said, seeing the happiness on their faces recharges me. This is just a man I've got so much love for, as I'm sure you do too, Jacob.
Yeah, I mean, it's getting attention all over now. A lot of neutral TikTokers and ex-users have picked up on this Pereira going into pubs and highlighting it, but it's been going on since he got here. I remember Christmas Day when he just got in. He spent it at a Wolves fans carvery place. You know, always giving back to the community, always giving us something to smile about. And yeah, it's a brilliant thing to see. Obviously, we'll see what it comes to when we inevitably go through a phase that isn't as good as this. I doubt he'll be showing his face in the pub. We've just lost 3-0 home to Brentford or something. But it's the it's the absolute togetherness that we just really have at this football club at the minute. And yeah, something that is really reminiscent of the Nuno era. And I don't want to put too much on it, but I said to you at full time, didn't I? We've got the core of the squad, the happy squad here where, come on, Jeff, if you could just put that little bit of hole in your pockets, we can do something special next season. We can do more than just scrape survival or sit in 15th or 16th. Because we've got a squad here that can push those higher calibre of places in this Premier League if you just add a bit more to it. You've got your manager there. You've looked through Bruno Lage, wasn't the man. You've looked through Lopetegui, he wasn't the man. You've looked through Gary O'Neill, he wasn't the man. I think you've got your man here, and you've got to back him. You know, there's a certain power that comes with having the fans behind you as well, and he certainly has that. So come on, we can really do something with this manager. I think he's got all my support, he's got all my backing, as it seems he has all your backing. It seems he has the majority of the fans backing at this point. You know, chance of first the points, then the points coming from the South Bank. on Sunday, and the first round's on you bit, or we got that bit of a banter and togetherness with the manager that we really needed, and he's the perfect man to come in. I know we all turned our nose up at the appointment at the time, but wow, what a perfect appointment he has been. He's just exactly what the club needed, what the city needed at this point in time.
But for me, it's just also the fact that he immediately said in his press conference that he didn't come to the Premier League to just stay up. He came to make history. He always wants more. He's always got ambition, and that's something that our fan base has wanted from a manager for so long since Nuno that we haven't had, because that's the feeling in the stands too, and always has been. Even on the win streak, saying, yes, sure, we've made history, but he wants to go to Old Trafford and make it 5 wins in a row. Saying when asked about the Cunha situation that while he hadn't spoken to him due to a lack of time, he understands the supporters, repeating it 3 times, and he's saying, but he's a part of our family and we're all stronger connected, which is completely true, as we've seen when Gary O'Neill and Lopetegui have thrown their toys out the pram regarding the squad, and had immense disconnection with the squad and the fans. As well as this, he's just a great guy, seemingly so down to earth, and I really agree. I think we've got our man here, but I think the problems lie in when Cunha inevitably departs, if Jeff's willing to get his wallet out.
Yeah, that's unfortunately the case. But before we get to that, we've got, 5 or 6 games left of this Premier League season. Starting at Old Trafford on Sunday, and wow, would I be crazy to call us the favourites going into this game? Because we are on such a streak at the moment, and let's be quite frank, Manchester United are gash. I watched them when we got home from the game on Sunday. My God, they are awful. I know they're playing a good Newcastle United team, but my God, they're terrible at football. They struggle to string a pass together going forward. Defensively, they look so fragile. Recently, Onana for Bayinda, who dropped an absolute clanger on Sunday, seemingly can't catch a break at the moment, Man United. And I, for one, have never been this confident going into a game at Old Trafford, which may come back to bite me, but wow. I mean, we've been lucky enough to get tickets, and I'm really excited thinking that we're going to go and do something on this Easter Sunday. I'm hoping the weather's going to be good, the sun's going to shine down us as we ultimately, I think, smash Manchester United on Sunday.
Wouldn't we just love it? Wouldn't we? I also am very optimistic, as I'm sure most Wolves fans are, when you put into perspective that both of the teams' forms going into it. Who knows who's starting in goal for United on Sunday? Maybe it'll be Tom Heaton at this point. But Wolves just look like we can't stop scoring, and the squad look together. I'm interested as to see whether Matheus Cunha starts or starts on the bench again. I do feel like he might be benched again, but the fact he scored makes me think he could easily start just as well.
Yeah.
When asked about the injuries in his press conference, by the way, Vitor Pereira says he expects everyone who came off to be back. John Stone was left out because of an injury, but he expects him back. Guedes had a tiny knee knock. However, him and Doyle were left out of the squad for tactical reasons, supposedly, as he wants to see more in training from them. Bellegarde, I saw at work yesterday, as weird as that sounds, and I asked him if he'll be back from injury by next game, and he said yes, he expects to. Doherty was reportedly suffering from a hamstring injury that was reoccurring, but I'll pass you on to Jacob.
Pedro Lima told me at half-time he'll be back on Sunday. Well, he nodded when I asked him. Whether he understands English or not is beyond me, but he did nod when I asked him. So Pedro Lima could be back. But yeah, as poor as Manchester United are, first of all, Matheus Cunha, I do believe he'll start. I think the knock to Bellegarde will be a shoehorn in for him. I'd probably expect Bellegarde to probably be on the bench due to this knock. Matheus Cunha to maybe come in for Jordan play a bit higher, or maybe Manetzi go into that midfield role. Or maybe Marshall Manetzi will be given a break for his run around. I think Mateus Cunha will start on Sunday. But I think it's where you shoehorn him in. I don't think Larson will be dropped, of course. I think it will be a front pairing of probably Mateus Cunha and Jorgen Strand Larson. But yeah, United, as poor as they are, do possess quality. Let's be honest with ourselves, if they do turn up, they can cause us problems. We saw Garnacho on Sunday, as poor as he's been this season. When he does decide he plays football, he can be dangerous. Obviously, Bruno Fernandes is always capable of coming up with something. Although it is prone to drop this stinker against Wolves, I have noticed. But yeah, I'm relatively confident going into this game. Cam, can I get a score prediction off you?
Whilst we'll all be remaining confident following our terrific form, while United aren't in the best of form, they are a team who always have the potential to just turn up and win with their players such as Bruno Fernandes, especially putting the team on his back. But I want to say it'll be a win, but I do feel like we'll do well to win at Old Trafford regardless of their form. United play a lot better at home. I'm going to say it'll be 2-2.
Yeah, that is a very fair observation. I think we'd probably take a draw at Old Trafford, certainly. But I feel we're going to get all three. I really do. I'm sensing a 2-1 Wolverhampton will just win. I think Mateus will find himself on the score sheet again, and I think Larson will carry on his goal scoring form. I think their defence will not be able to handle them two at the minute. They can be carved open like a knife through butter, and I think we're going to exploit that. And I'm confident we're going to come away with 3 points. One last thing before we do head off, though, it's been making rounds on Twitter lately. Obviously we mentioned Norway potentially going off in the summer, but that creates a hole at left back. Hugo Bueno has been quite heavily linked with AFC Bournemouth lately, and apparently they really like the Spanish fullback. Obviously doing very well out on loan at Feyenoord. Cam, would you rather sell Bueno and keep Ryan Norrie on board, or would you be trying to keep Hugo at the club next season?
Well, I feel like if either of them are going to go, it is just going to be Aït-Nouri, if I'm honest. I feel like the Algerian is the most likely to leave. He would command a heavy transfer fee, let's be honest. And Hugo Bueno, I think, would want to prove himself in a Wolves shirt once again if he did come back. However, like you said, it depends on the money, I think, from the Mateus Cunha deal, as well as other departures. I think the left-back situation is one that won't be resolved very quickly in the summer. It'll be one that's solved in the midway to later stage of the transfer window, as I think it will obviously depend on our transfer business beforehand. I think we're likely to see a lot of movement at fullback, given the Nelson Semedo situation and the Aït-Nouri and Bueno situations. And I think it could honestly be a coin toss as to who stays. But the thing is, if Aït-Nouri stays and Hugo Bueno moves to Bournemouth, Aït-Nouri could very well just leave the next summer. And that's where the problem lies for me. I would much rather Aït-Nouri go if that were to be the case, and keep Bueno, who could play 3 seasons maybe for us before moving on. Whereas Aït-Nouri, while he would be better for the season, that's probably all we'd be able to hang on to him for as a top club would come knocking, as we all know his quality. Bournemouth obviously looking for a replacement to Kirkes, who Liverpool are heavily linked with at the moment. But yeah, I'm not sure. It remains to be seen for me.
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting debate to be had, and one that we'll definitely be bringing up for a few weeks in the transfer window. I'm sure there'll be multiple layers to this, what will eventually become a left-back saga at Wolves. But I think it's a good conversation to have, because I think it's two very capable footballers we're on about. I don't think ending up with either one of them this season is a bad scenario. I think both more than capable of playing at this level. But I think that's the note we're going to end it on. Another positive podcast, and we hope to come back with a 5th straight positive podcast next week. Wow. Who can believe we're saying that? But I've been your host, Jacob Jones. I've once again been joined by Cam Gorman. But we've been the Southbank podcast once again, and goodbye.
Goodbye.
The voice of a new generation. This is KIC Radio.